Okay, it is not a virtual event if there are no technical glitches. So really excited. I know we are now cut short by 5 minutes, but still really excited about the next 25 minutes. For we will be talking with Dave Malouf, one of our past speakers, also a speaker at speaker, educator, well-known leader in the design ops space. And Dave currently leads the design ops vertical for the design team at Northwestern Mutual. And we will be talking all about the multiple roles that Dave is hiring for on his team, and also learn more about how the team is structured, and how design happens at this massive fintech slash insurtech company. So where is everyone joining in from? I see quite a few folks are live now, beyond the initial minor glitch we had. And let's see, comments start trickling in. And so this is a live AMA for those of you who are joining in for the first time, for the first time on a Design Jobs AMA session. This is a live AMA, so any question you have, please enter into the chat window. And then as the conversation goes, I'll pull it, into our live feed, so Dave can share more information on those questions. Okay, so, oh wow, folks are joining from Philly. Someone messaged on Slack that they're joining from Toronto. We'll also get to know where all the roles are being hired for. So let's get started. Okay. Hi, Dave.
Hello.
Appreciate your patience as we resolve these tech issues. Really glad we have you for the next 21, 22 minutes to talk all about the various roles you're hiring for on the Northwestern team.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to share. We have a lot going on starting up in 2021, and we're trying to ramp up for it. We've had some roles publicly available for about 6 to 8 weeks already, and those roles are mostly still open. And we're also going to be offering some new roles in the coming year. We have a total of 14 roles open right now.
Wow,
And
that's incredible.
they cut across experience design or product design, research, and content. So.
That's incredible. Is the hiring for these 14 roles? Is this just part of already a strategy that is being executed on, or did COVID slash everything that happened this year has any role to play in that?
I think the only role that COVID had to play in these roles is that it slowed our growth down. And so the strategy is still the same. We're an insurance company, so we do tend to be a little bit risk averse. You should be happy about that, about an insurance company.
Right.
And so, we slowed down a bit on our growth during the course of the year. And then as we started to normalize what it means to be in this situation, normalize our operations, normalize our growth, we started to work towards the 2021 plan, which is, from a design perspective, is very much about investment, and so that we can really hit our strategy.
Right. That's incredible. And generally we kick off the AMA asking about like what makes the company special and all those things. And the folks that I'm speaking with usually have been at the company for quite some time. You've previously led roles at companies like DigitalOcean. You've been at HP and quite a few other exciting companies. And then I think you joined Northwestern Mutual in the last year or so, right?
I've been here exactly a year and a week.
Okay. Oh wow. So what got you excited in the first place to to join this massive financial institution?
Well, I think like a few things. As anyone may advise you or not, is you look for a great manager when you're looking for a new job. And David Nelson is the VP of design here at Northwestern Mutual, and getting to know him through a pretty long process, I really felt a connection and felt like there was a good partnership there. between him and I, and really saw that like he's relatively new too. He's about at 18 months himself, and so like just getting a sense from the company that they're investing in design by hiring someone like him, a veteran of Microsoft and Apple and Adobe and Method and places like that. Just that level of quality, and it's definitely shown through. And then also the partnership and the way that he works with his direct reports and his whole team. And so that's probably the biggest reason. In terms of Northwestern Mutual as a company, I feel like it was an opportunity to work at a different sort of company. I've worked at startups and I've worked at large multinationals like HP, and both startups or even just private companies and public companies are really different from working for a mutual. A mutual is a kind of company where the policy holders are co-owners of the company, and it really changes how you think about what a quarter means, what a year means, and changes the whole business culture of a place. And a mutual the concept of mutuality is something that permeates the culture of this place completely. And it's, it still is learning about what design is all about. But it's also incredibly curious and um, and hungry to bring design in.
Right. What would you say? Because when folks look at these large enterprises and massive institutions, there's a stereotype which is changing definitely now, at least in the last 2 to 3 years, which is like it's going to be really slow paced, or it won't be as innovative, and you have to work within a lot of constraints. What is one thing about Northwestern Mutual as compared to all these other large companies that you think folks outside, especially folks that you would ideally target for these roles, do not know about when it comes to, could be anything from the culture to how the company works, how design works?
Yeah, I'd say that the way that this company works is we talk about perform and transform, that we have obligations to our policy owners, which forces us to always be performant. But we are also focused on transformation. And we are an organization that has led and continues to lead for over 100 years our market. We've been the #1 insurance provider in life insurance forever. We're 160 years old, and like that's the other side, is we understand what it means to play long. And I think I haven't worked for any other company, even 75-year-old HP at the time, that was really able to culturally ingrain thinking long term the way that Northwestern Mutual has, as part of the company. Doesn't mean you ignore the short term, but the short term is for the long term. Or I don't get that from a lot of other companies.
That definitely sounds really interesting. A bit of an operational question, because we get this question a lot. These multiple roles that you're hiring for, are there any geographic constraints? And if they are, what do they look like?
Yeah, we are a United States operating company. So everyone needs to reside in the 50 states in order to work for Northwestern Mutual. For some of our higher roles, sometimes we do some visa sponsorship, or we're better at taking over other visas, other sponsorships, starting from scratch. For the most part, though, for lower level roles, senior and below, it's really doesn't work for us. In terms of like more specific geography, one of the things that I feel pretty proud about that I've been able to take advantage of the current situation is all of these roles are remote within those 50 states. If you are not in Central and Eastern times, you still need to commit to working to whichever one is most convenient to your lifestyle. But there are only an hour difference between those. So Um, I wouldn't recommend Hawaii, but I mean, I would recommend Hawaii.
Right.
But from a time zone perspective, it might be a little
Yes.
difficult unless you happen to be a really early morning person. Um,
Right.
but we do live predominantly on Central Time as a company. That's where our headquarters is in Milwaukee. The other thing that
Right.
I've really been trying to promote with this is if you are looking forward to going back to an office after,
Mm.
once we're able to do that,
Mm.
New York and Milwaukee are our two offices where we have design teams, and
Mm.
we're totally happy with that too. If you want to,
Right.
and for some of the roles, we also talk about relocation as well, if that's what you really want, if you don't want to stay remote. So,
That's pretty exciting. Are you looking forward to going back to the office?
I live with a 2-hour commute right now, so
Right.
no, I'm like happy right where I am.
Right.
This has been great. No, I'm
Right.
an extrovert, so I definitely look forward to being with people, but I'm not going to be
Right.
doing 5 days a week anymore,
Yes.
ever again. So
Yeah.
that's for sure.
You want to have the choice that you can if you feel like,
Yeah,
you can go it. Yeah.
exactly.
Totally understand. Um, David, would be really helpful to learn a little more about how the design team is structured. In the brief, you had shared on the design leadership Slack group. You had mentioned that the design team is over 70 people.
Hmm.
So how is the team structured? What is the composition like?
Sure. I'd say that we have 4 product design teams, um,
Mhm.
and those teams are set up so that we they're about 10 to 15 people each. They
Mhm.
are made up of experienced designers, which is the title we use, which probably pairs more to product design. And then we also have visual designers. The
Mhm.
other bit, there's another design team focused on our design system, which is
Mhm.
about 5 people there. And then we have another team focused on like our horizontal or our total service ecology
Mhm.
that we're engaged with. And then we have a research team, a content team, and an operations team.
Wow, that's pretty incredible. Most of these roles that you're hiring for, are they quite spread across all these different kind of subdomains, sub-teams?
Um, ask that one more time.
So most of the roles, because you were earlier in a chat, you were mentioning you'll be hiring close to 10 plus roles,
Yeah.
or closer to that number. Are they pretty spread across all these different kind of subdomains, from content to design to user research?
They're mostly design,
Okay.
but there's definitely at least one research role opening, and
Mhm.
there is currently a content role as well.
Okay, that's incredible. And so when we are talking about folks of 70 plus, and especially the new roles that are being hired for, Stephanie has a question, around like what kind of products are being designed, or even with these new folks, are there special areas that you're focusing on?
Yeah, so each team is its own focus, and we're hiring like we are hiring for specific teams, but in terms of the
Mm.
product areas, um, it's basically the running of any kind of insurance and investment kind
Mm.
of portfolio. So we're talking about client servicing,
Mm.
accounts and stuff like that. We're talking about how to plan and wealth management. We're
Mm.
talking about how to set up insurance payments and go through an enrollment process and underwriting process, um,
Mm.
as well as we have 3 experiences that basically we're responsible for. We're responsible for predominantly the client experience, but we also have a huge field workforce of field reps that we're responsible
Mm.
for. There's actually more of them than there are employees of Northwestern Mutual.
Wow.
And then we have the Northwestern Mutual experience for those people who are directly servicing the client. So we're responsible for all 3 of those. So it's a lot of, there's web apps, there's mobile apps for all 3. So
That's pretty cool. I had a little bit of a follow-up question to Stephanie's question, which is, um, especially when you start talking about the kind of products, and I'm sure in the interview process also, you talk about some of the priorities of projects that are being worked on.
mhm.
How much do you value someone coming from a fintech or this space, this background, that even gets the terminologies, or is there I don't know, like the onboarding to learning more about this whole space? You mentioned underwriting, and I think like until 1 year ago, I had no idea what that meant till I learned more about the mortgage tech space, and even so. How much do you value that? Because for some folks, and especially I think especially designers, at least the ones I know and I talk to, like numbers are usually we numbers, anything with finance, I shouldn't say numbers, not mathematics, but finance and all the terminologies are generally seem like a blocker,
Yeah.
mental blocker. So is there a strong preference for folks having fintech background, having worked in this space, or are you open to folks from other
We put it as a
industries?
preferred requirement on our job descriptions, but quite
Okay.
honestly, um, you still have to. There's some starting from scratch,
Mm,
because like coming from banking would be really different than doing insurance. I
right.
think investment is probably the closest for this, and I think
Right.
it does help, but at the same time, we really just want great designers, right? And so we can teach you about what it means to do insurance and investment.
Right.
So yeah.
How was that experience for you? Like, did you come from already being keen on this space, or was it kind of a little bit of a learning experience slash onboarding experience for you as well?
I'm still learning a ton every day.
Right.
Fortunately, my role is not quite in the weeds as designers, because I'm
Mm,
not a designer.
right.
I'm an operations
Mm,
person. But
right.
I think that I learn every day as part of it. And in fact, like one of the things people in my role often do is we go through the experience of becoming a customer directly.
Right.
And a lot of people who work for the company are also customers of the company. And there's nothing quite like
Right.
learning about your client experience by being a client.
Right. Right. That's so true. So
Right.
true. Jane had a really interesting question around, how we were talking about culture empowering long-term thinking, also impacting, everything you do from design to product. So, can you talk more about the culture and how it comes into play within the day-to-day life? And I
Yeah.
think with a focus on the design team.
Well, I think like the first part of the question is like, how does the long-term thinking really play out? And I think um, we have annual goals, which
Mm,
impact our bonuses on an annual
mm,
basis, but we also have long-term bonuses as well. And
mm,
so I've never worked for a company that's had that. Like where they're tracking things on a 5-year basis and on a 1-year basis or on a 30-year basis as well.
right.
And that's just never happened. And so it changes the incentives a bit.
Right.
We're definitely focused on the annual because quite honestly, it's really hard to focus too long out,
Mm,
like multi-generationally. But I think that that's definitely it's a part of it, even though we're still focused on the year. There's very few goals that are just purely quarterly or just purely short term
right.
in the organization that don't tie back to the annual directly. Um, and then we do a lot because of that. We do year-long planning, which may have the opposite effect around agility, quite
Mm,
honestly. But I think we do a pretty decent job of trying to balance those. In terms of other kinds of cultural elements, I think mutuality is probably the most important.
mm,
Where this idea of we're in it together. Um,
mm,
we're an old school company, and because of that, we've definitely built up a lot of silos just because of the way those organizations worked. But as we've been rethinking digital as a digital transformation platform, we've
mm,
definitely been looking at, well, hey, mutuality is part of the company, not just part of our customer experience. And we've been trying
mm.
to break out of the silos based on that value proposition.
Right. Right. Yeah. I can. I can. You know. As you were sharing these things, it kind of brought me down the memory lane of when I was working for Quicken Loans, and again, some similarities around the legacy part that comes with its pros and the benefits and some challenges. Are there any are there any nuances of a designer that you would strongly discourage them, any kinds of designs that you would strongly encourage them not to apply, that they would not be a good fit for, these roles, or in general for the design team at Northwestern Mutual?
It's hard to generalize that. We definitely don't want to be exclusive in any way. I think that we we're really looking for quality designers. I think, look at the job descriptions and use that more as a guidepost for the kind of designers we're looking for that role. I think there's a few things that we're always looking for. It's not about exclusion, but more about inclusion, is like, people who are good systems thinkers, people who can connect dots in across a system, across an application, people who can think strategically in terms of how this dot and that dot are going to connect to each other for reaching goals. And so the other part I would say is being very results oriented in terms of outcomes versus outputs is also really important. It's not what you make, but it's what happens with what you make that's important. And then the last thing I'd say is we're really looking for people who are growth oriented and curious, and aren't necessarily stuck in that there's one way of doing things and one way of being. So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Dave. I know you have to go in a minute. So one last question: how long is the general, if you had to generalize, the interview process looks like from when someone kind of gets into the process?
Once I get out of my hell week this week, it'll start going much faster. So apologies to anyone who's been applying. But basically, process is usually within a week. We try to get through portfolio reviews, and then within a week after that, we get back to people to set up usually our first phone screens. There's 2 levels of phone screens, and then a panel interview. I would call it an in-person interview, but not anymore. And then after the in-person interview or the panel interview, there's a quick step at that point, like usually 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Okay. That's actually pretty quick for a massive company. And then one last question by Varun was: are the 4 teams that you were talking about, they're spread across both NYC and Minneapolis?
Yeah, just a quick correction. It's Milwaukee.
Oh, Milwaukee. Yes.
Yeah, it's Milwaukee. And yes, all the teams are split across both offices and beyond. We have remote workers in Texas and Northern Virginia and other places too.
Amazing, incredible. Thank you so much, Dave.
We
did take a minute more. Thank you so much. This was really helpful for folks who are interested in learning more. I shared the job description links in the Slack channel, and yeah, once we hear about the new roles that get posted, we'll surely update the post too. So really appreciate you coming on this live stream, Dave. Thank you, and have a good week. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. I hope that was helpful. Sorry for cutting it short today. Trying to use new tools, and it's not always a smart idea because they can cause some technical glitches at times. So this was our 4th Design Jobs AMA. We have a few more lined up. I would really appreciate if folks that are in the Slack community can reach out and share your feedback around things that you do find helpful from these Design Jobs AMA, and things that you would like to see. What are some questions that you might not be comfortable, putting your name next to the comment or the question in the chat box, but I can definitely ask those on your behalf, and also ask them in general for every AMA we do. If it's the salary number, if it's something more around the growth trajectory or what a career path looks like. Do share those questions because these are also really good feedback points for the hiring managers. I've written in my LinkedIn post, I for one definitely find job descriptions look like almost like a spec sheet. So not the most interactive elements, and that's why we are doing these design jobs AMA. So head to Slack, or you can email me at preet@DesignX, and please do share your feedback. Really appreciate that. Have a good one. Bye.